So what the first thing I say to people that are interested in conversion rate optimization is define what a conversion actually is. Is it a white paper download? Is it a newsletter sign up? Is it someone that signs up for your SaaS and then pays for the next 6 months and tells all their friends about it? Is it a really high value transaction? Or is it just, we want people to download a white paper and then get signed up for a newsletter? And once you've done that, just set up some basic analytics to measure that conversion and just see where you're at for the next 3 months. It's also really hard it's really easy rather, to go down the rabbit hole of optimizing for a more measurable conversion at the cost of a more valuable conversion. So for example, I'm sure you've seen this all over the place, man. Like the exit intent pop-ups that appear whenever you try and navigate away from a page, or newsletter sign-up pop-ups that hit you in the face after you've been browsing an article for a couple minutes. Sure, that's maybe going to get 10, 20 more newsletter subscribers every month, albeit reluctant subscribers. But of course, that's more measurable. Because second of 5 is to get on the phone and actually talk to your customers. So, excuse me. It's really easy. I do this myself, to get stuck in a vacuum of just looking at your own branding, looking at your own landing pages, and thinking about what the customer is experiencing when they browse that page. But there's no substitute for just having people browse the page on their own and watching them do it, or just talking to them and asking them what they find valuable about your product. This was much more important earlier in the year with all the uncertainty around the coronavirus pandemic. I was telling people, like, hey, if you want to get through this in a healthy way, the path is to listen to your customers. Get on the phone with them, ask them what it is that they find valuable about your product, help them feel secure as they navigate the pandemic, maybe offer them a discount, offer them more features that will help them scale quickly during the pandemic or something, But man, if you're not having like a handful of conversations with people that actually buy your product every week, you're operating in an environment where it's very easy to be led astray by vanity metrics and personal opinions and internal incentives that aren't really aligned with what your customers really want out of your experience. So that's suggestion number 2, is actually get on the phone and talk to some customers and get raw feedback on what it is that they find valuable about your SaaS product. The third one is, this is just like a really simple thing that you can do today. You don't need to hire anyone. You don't need to open up your website dashboard or anything. Really straightforward. Open up your browser of choice on your mobile phone in an incognito browser or a private browser where there's no data stored, and visit the landing page, the primary landing page for your SaaS app, and try to sign up for a demo or a trial. This sounds obvious, but man, the amount of people that I've talked to who haven't actually done this, people in the VP marketing spot, CMOs that have never actually tried this, is shocking. And when you do it, you'll probably find that you're playing a game of whack-a-mole with your thumb, where you're trying to dismiss cookie consent banners, intercom pop-ups, COVID banners, exit intent modals. There's so many things that you're trying to dismiss just so that you can read about the offering on your product or for your product. Yeah.
I think that's true. And something that I've observed is I like magic links a lot more than, the password entry. I think it saves a lot more money for the companies. It's more secure. And it's a better experience for the end user as well, because nobody wants to remember a password to your new SaaS app. Like, nobody cares about your SaaS app, and it's not going to really become a memory for them if you're going to add more friction. And I think passwords can become that point of friction. So having magic links, I think, is a game changer.
Yeah, 4 is kind of a polarizing one. A lot of people disagree with me on this, but I generally advise people to get rid of rapport-breaking short-term sales tactics on your site. So there's a lot of folks out there that are using squeeze pages to get like one or two more people to sign up for a particular service, or they're using exit intents. I know I've been hammering on exit intents left, right, and center this chat so far, but they're using all these things that they know annoy people to get maybe one or two extra subscribers to their newsletter or one or two downloads of their ebook, and it's hurting other conversions elsewhere, other more valuable conversions. So I tell people, hey, if you want to like do the right thing for long-term business health, just get rid of all those banners, get rid of all the exit intents, get rid of all the squeeze page tactics, and instead focus on generating value for people and delivering to your customers what it is they want and what they find valuable about your solution in a way that's easy for them to digest. And then if you solve that equation, if you give people the things that, if you explain to people clearly how you are going to make their lives better by signing up for your SaaS app and then make it easy for them to do that, they're just going to do that more often than they would otherwise. So it's pretty straightforward, number 4. But again, a lot of people disagree. They say, hey, we need to keep them there because we do get some signups every now and then from the pop-ups. Number 5 is to answer customer pre-sales questions on your site somewhere. This one's kind of a weird one, but it really stems from the idea that people buy things predictably. So for anyone listening, try and think about the last time you bought something of significant financial value. You probably first realized that you had a painful problem that you wanted to solve, or you had, some pleasure that you wanted to pursue. And then you did an initial look into the market, maybe did a couple Google searches to just get some options on the table. Then you probably talked with some friends to get some recommendations from people. Then you whittled it down to a handful of options, perhaps talked to some salesmen. Then you looked for third-party verifiable reviews of the provider somewhere that wasn't controlled by the provider. So like Google reviews, G2, Trustpilot, things like that. And then ultimately you decided on a solution that most emotionally resonated with you after you'd gone through that really long process. So we know that people buy things predictably. So we can adapt our sales process to that buying process and kind of sell how you would like to buy something. And the way you do that is just simply by answering customer pre-sales questions somewhere on the site. And a lot of people have very similar questions like, what do you do for me? How are you different from every other CRM out there? How expensive is it? Is it easy to move my data over to your software? Questions like these are like really basic stuff that if you don't answer them, you just don't get considered in the first place. So I always tell people like, hey, the goal of your site is to clearly explain these things and then make it easy for people that have decided that you'd be a good fit for them to move through the funnel. So just answer those questions somewhere in the copy or visually with some diagram, and you'll be golden.
Interesting. And what's a good pre-sales question to answer? Like, what's the best you've ever encountered?
Well, the most important pre-sales questions, the ones that you kind of have to answer, is number 1, what do you do for me? Like, what am I going to get out of this? And number 2 is, how are you different from everyone else that offers your solution? So nowadays, I was looking at this post on LinkedIn where someone was saying that for every SaaS company out there, there's about 9 competitors that offer essentially the same thing. It's a very saturated market right now. Everyone wants to get into SaaS. So like, how are you better than Google? Like, let's say you're an email marketing software. How are you better than Drip? How are you better than MailChimp? Or not necessarily better, but how are you uniquely different? And what problem do you solve for me? I mean, I'm sure you've visited sites in the past where you've hit the page and they haven't really made the solution that they're offering clear, and you get frustrated and you're like, what the heck do you guys do? Like, why am I here? Like, what do you do for me? Stop wasting my time. That's a very negative experience for people, and people aren't, they don't have the patience for that anymore. It's 2020, man. We've been using the web for 40 years now, 30 years rather. And people are tired of having to wait to get things.